Shalom to you and welcome. In this video, we look at slope in general and then we'll calculate slope of parallel lines and perpendicular lines. Yep. So we can use slope to prove that lines are parallel. As we'll see, the slopes of parallel lines are congruent. So basic key idea of slope here. Slope is generally the steepness of a line, the change in vertical change over horizontal change. Y represents the vertical line and X represents the horizontal line. So the difference between the coordinates of vertical, which is Y, divided by the difference between the coordinates of X. Okay, so these are things that diagrams that people have drawn to help them remember slope. Slope of positive slope, it rises from left to right. Again, we read from left to right, so everything is read from left to right. As you're going from left to right of this line, it's going up. As you read from left to right of this line, is coming down. So the slope is positive here. The slope is negative when it's coming down. When it's 0, there's no rise or run, so there's no rise, just run. So the slope is 0, is flat, like the floor. Then here, it's very steep, vertical. There's no slope when that happens. It is another way people represent it in a tree: positive up, negative down, 0, then undefined slope in that steepness. Okay. All right, so the closer the line is to being vertical, that's how steep the line is, whether negative or positive. So as it stands straight up vertically, it's closer to this higher. As it gets flat, I mean, if the slope is 0, it's very easy to work with, no stress. So, but the steeper slope, it's harder to climb, like a hill. So this is not much steep, it's closer to 0, a little steeper here, and as it's rising, is even going up and up, and then very steep, is very close to being straight. So when it's straight, undefined. Okay, so we can read any segment at all, any segment or ray or line, we can calculate the slope, how steep it is, as long as we can identify 2 points on it. So here we're going to find the slope of PC. So PC is this line here. So let's label their X and Y, make it easier here. So let's label this X1, Y1. We label this X2, Y2. We can label this X3, Y3. So all we need, just to identify each point, so all we need to do for each one of them, just find the change in Y. So we're going to find the slope of PC, write it like this. Slope of this PC is going to be the change in Y. So it's going to be Y1 minus Y2 over X1 minus X2. Again, since I started with Y1 and end with Y2, I have to start with X1 and end with X2. Do not mix them up. If you want to do Y2 minus Y1 over X2 minus X1, that will also be all right, as long as you don't mix them up. Okay, so this is going to be slope of PC. So that's going to be 3 is Y1, and 0 is Y2, and 9 is X1, and 5 is Y2. So the slope of PC is going to be, subtract the top, and then 9 minus 5 is 4. So it's going to be 3/4. The slope of that PC is 3/4. So to find the slope of PA, we do the same thing. So P and A, now we can do And we can look at the slope of PC. We see it's rising from left to right. So we know it's positive and our answer is positive. That's how you can check your answer. But you look at this slope, PA now, it's falling down from left to right. It's going down. So we know that this slope is going to be negative, but let's find it out. So we can do, again, we can do y1 minus y3 this time over x1 minus x3. If we want to do y3 minus y1, it's fine. So PA, it's going to be, okay, y1 is 3, okay, it happens to be 0 again at y3, and x1, 9 minus 11 here, minus 11. So top is 3, so 9 minus 11 is, what is that? So that's -2. So -2, and that's why we have it's negative. So this is going to be, written in the middle there, -3/2. Okay. So the last, we're going to find the slope of PAC. So the slope of AC is going to be, we label this as x3, y3. This is x2, y2. So now we are going to do y3 minus y2 over x3 minus x2. So which is 0 minus 0 over 11 minus 5. So which is 0 minus 0 is 0, 5 minus that is 4. So just looking at the top is going to be 0. So we know this is going to be slope of 0. Okay, so the slope of AC is 0, and we can see it is a horizontal line. There's no rise. It's just a run. There's no increase in y, so it's 0. Slope of horizontal line is 0. So when you are looking for a slope from a line, just identify the point. So if I identify the point here, it's going to be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is -4 because it goes to the left, and then 4 it rise up 1, so 1, and then here it's going to be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 to the right, so +4, and then he came down 1, 2, 3. So it's -3. So and then we do the same thing. We can just label this as our x1, y1, and our x2, y2. So the slope is going to be, whichever way we take, we can do y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So y2 is -3 minus y1. Again, be careful, never write x on top. It has to be x at the bottom. Remember, x comes first before y, so you start from the floor and then you rise up. That's how everything grows. Okay, so then we do x2, which is 4, minus y2, which is 4. As we can, oh, that's -4. So -4. So that is -3 minus 1 is -4. And then this is 4 plus 4, because minus negative, when you subtract an integer, you add the opposite. So opposite of -4 is 4. So that gives us -4 over 8, which is -1/2. So, but if we can also look at, we are going from this point to this point. We're going to go down 1, 2, 3, 4. We go down 4. Going down is -4, and then we go right 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So going right is positive. So that's the slope. Slope is the rise over run. So how much we go up or down over how much we go right or left. So we go down -4 and we go right positive 8. So that still gives us the -1/2. If we wanted to go this side, it's the same thing. We're going to go up 1, 2, 3, 4. +4, we go left 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We go left -8. Either way, you get -1/2. The slope will be the same. But be careful though, if the measure of the coordinate, the numbers are not by 1, if they are by 2 or 3 or 4, you want to make sure you consider that. Okay. Now, if we're asked to find slope from equation, so all we need to do is solve that equation for y. After we solve for y, the number, the coefficient of x is going to be our slope. So let's solve this equation for y. So we want to get y by itself. So we are going to divide both sides by, divide everything. So let me just write this first. -2y equals, so we can separate this so that you're not mixing the signs up. So this is -3s. When you subtract integer, you add its opposite. So that way we see that negative there. And then we are going to divide by -2 to get y by itself. Divide every term by -2. So negative divide negative here is positive. So we have y equals, so negative divide negative is positive. We have 3/2 x. And then negative divide negative is positive also. Positive is positive. So we have +1. 2 divide 2 is 1. So now y is by itself. The slope is this line. If you remember the linear function, the linear function here, y equals mx plus b. So this is the slope. Okay, that's the slope. Any number, the coefficient of x, which means any number that is multiplying x, and this is the y-intercept. Okay, where the line crosses the y-axis. So from solving for y, we see that this is the slope. So the slope equals 3/2. Right. Okay, so another goal we have today is working with slopes of parallel lines and perpendicular lines. Your basic key idea here is that to know that parallel lines have the same slope. If two lines are parallel, their slope must be the same. Their y-intercept may be different, but their slope will be congruent. So if two lines are perpendicular, which means they intersect to form 90 degrees, then the product of their slope would be -1. That means if we remember that reciprocals, the product of reciprocals equals 1. But then this is -1. That means opposite of the reciprocal. So the slopes of perpendicular lines are opposite reciprocal of each other. Okay, this will become clearer as we apply it. So in equation form, two lines are parallel if and only if their slope are congruent. So the slope of the first line m1, the slope of second line m2, like we see here. So their y-intercept is different, but their slope is the same. Okay, so I see those two lines are parallel. So you can use that in a proof to prove that lines are parallel by finding their slope. Here, two lines perpendicular, slope of the first line times the slope of the second line must equal -1. You can use this formula, but once you understand that it's opposite reciprocal, so go through those two steps. So you see, if the slope of one of them is -3/2, the slope of the second one must be +2/3. So 2/3 is the reciprocal of 3/2, and then +2/3 is the opposite of the negative. So if one of them is positive, one must be negative. So the same thing. First of all, we solve for y. So we solve for y. So here we have -4y minus 12 by on one side. So we have to move everything on one side, leaving y alone. So we're going to add 12 to both sides. Make sure you add to like terms. We do not have 12, does not have x in it, so it's going to, we cannot add it to negative 10. So negative 4y equals negative 10x plus 12. And then we can divide both sides, everything by negative 4. So y equals, okay, negative divide negative is positive. 4 divide 2 can go. 2 divide 10 is 5. 2 divide, that is 2. So we have positive 5 half x. And then positive divide negative is negative. So 12, 4 go into 12 3 times. Now, so we can see the slope of the first line is going to be 5 over 2. So the slope of the second line is going to also be 5 over 2 because slope of parallel lines are congruent. Okay, next, same thing. So try to get y by itself first. So we can add negative 4 over, we can add 4 over 3 to both sides. So we have x plus 4 over 3. That will give us negative 1/3 y. Again, we added positive 4 to get rid of 4 over 3 from this right side because y is on the right side at this time. So we want to move everything on the left side so that y can be by itself. So next we are going to multiply everything by the reciprocal of negative 1/3, which is 3. So we're going to multiply this by negative 3 over 1 times negative 3 over 1 times negative 3 over 1. So multiply everything by negative 3. And so this is going to be negative 3x. And negative times positive is negative, but 3 will cross out itself 1 here because this is multiplication. Again, if you like, you can put parentheses here so you don't mix things up. Okay, so we have negative 1 times 4 is negative 4 equals y. So this negative will cross out, negative times negative is positive. So now that we have solved for y, again, we were looking for parallel. So the slope of the first line is going to be the coefficient of x, which is negative 3. So the slope of the second line must be negative 3 as well. Right, now we're going to find about perpendicular again. The slope of the perpendicular, slope of the first one times the slope of the second one must equal negative 1. But so let's solve for y first so we can find the slope of the first line. So to solve for y, we're going to add 9 to both sides. So negative 3y equals 9. So and then we're going to divide both sides by negative 3. So y equals negative 3. Because 3 going to 9 3 times, and positive divide negative is negative. Okay, so what happens here? There's no x. X is not here. So what do we do? If this is what kind of line is this? The line where y equals 3. So we can draw it. If we're not sure, we can draw it to see it. So in the coordinates, so we have y equals negative 3. So negative 1, negative 2, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4. So this is a line that passes through negative 3 when y equals negative 3, like that. So y equals negative 3, but this is y line, this is x line. So that means there's no rise. There's no rise, it is just horizontal. It can only have negative 3, negative 3. Y will always be negative 3 no matter what x is. X can be any number. X can be 0, x can be negative 4, x can be x can be 2, x can be 4, x can be 100, whatever it is, y will remain -3. So this is the slope of horizontal line. So we see the slope is 0. So the slope of horizontal line is 0. So you can easily draw that one. Okay. How about this one? Oh, by the way, we're not done. So this is the slope, because we're doing for perpendicular. So this is the slope of the first line here. So it's good. This is the slope of the line that is given, which is M1. Then we are looking for M2. The slope of M second line is going to be the reciprocal of this first one. So the reciprocal of 0 is going to be what? So that means you flip, whether is any number at the bottom, if you flip it, it's going to be something 1/0, but then 0 cannot be in the denominator, so it's going to be actually undefined. So the slope of this line is 0, but the slope of the perpendicular line to this is undefined because it changed, the reciprocal changed this to make 0 be in the denominator. Okay. All right. Last one, I believe. So again, we go ahead and solve for y. So we want to, since y is on the left with this number, we want to subtract 10 from both sides. Again, we have 0 here because 10 does not have x in it. So -2y equals 4x minus 10. And then we divide both sides by -2. Okay, so y equals -2x. And then negative divide negative is positive. And then 10 divide 2 divide 10 is 5. Okay, so we are looking for perpendicular, but first of all, the first one, the slope is going to be -2. And then what's the slope of M2? The slope of the second line is going to be opposite and reciprocal. So opposite of -2 is 2. And then reciprocal of 2 is 1/2. So again, opposite, you just change the sign. Reciprocal, you flip it. So 2 is like 2/1. So the reciprocal of 2 is 1/2. So the slope of the second line is going to be +1/2. Okay, that's how to do it quickly. Once you find the slope of the first line. Okie dokie.